Howdy, howdy, and welcome back to another Workshop Wednesday. We are actually recording this February the 24th, 2021. And the only reason I mention that is because we had to skip last week's live broadcast because we are in Texas. We're a Texas-based team, and we are all without power, water, or internet. Lots of fun stuff. We are officially back, however, and with all utilities. I know there are still some out there that are unfortunately having to deal with this mess, so definitely our thoughts go out to you. But we are grateful to be back, and thank you for all of those well-wishers who said hi to see how we were all doing. All right, let's go ahead and move on. This week, it's a strategy session. We're going to pick up kind of where we would normally pick up. It's always a strategy session. So we're going to talk about measuring the customer journey with the Eyes on the Journey report. Before we get too far into this, if it's your first Workshop Wednesday, welcome aboard. My name is Chris Mercer. Everybody calls me Mercer. You should as well. And I'm the co-founder of measurementmarketing.io. Now, you might have found us through some of the podcasts and talks that we've given, maybe through some of the other platforms we share some of our content with, like CXL Institute, Digital Marketer, Social Media Examiner, maybe even Measure Summit, or possibly you're already a member, whether that's our free membership that we have, the Toolbox members, or the Measurement Marketing Academy member, where you're actually learning all this fun stuff we're about to get into. So either way, happy to have you here, and thanks for joining us. It's our job to help people just like you learn how to use all these cool tools, and today we're going to talk a little bit about analytics and Tag Manager, just kind of in a contextual phase, but we're going to show a lot of Data Studio and show you what's possible with that. Of course, we always use the measurement marketing framework, so should you. It's 5 steps, remember. First, you plan. What questions are important to answer? What information do you need to collect those answers? What actions, most importantly, what actions will you take based on the answers you get? Then you do the build out. Then you look at the reports. This Eyes on the Journey report that I'm about to show you is one of those. Then you start forecasting. You're going to see how we're actually doing that. And of course, you can then optimize based on the results, which is what we're going to talk about today as well. So reporting, forecasting, and optimize are going to get kind of a highlight in today's workshop. With all of these workshops, your main goal is just one thing, one new idea, one new concept. I am hoping this is going to be kind of like an aha moment for you, because you will see a report that you might not have realized you could even set up, and it shows you a whole new world. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into it, shall we? Strategy session, measuring the customer journey with the Eyes on the Journey report. Now, as we always do, we're going to dive right in. I shouldn't say always, but most of the time. We're going to bring up Data Studio. And I wanted to show you, this is what we use. This is literally our production report that we use. This is real numbers from our company, the Measurement Marketing, and specifically for a product that we have, the Measurement Marketing Academy. This is the page that we're going to be talking about. So this is the Academy, obviously all this fun stuff. This is not a pitch, you'll get that later, but this is all the stuff that it has. It's a bunch of courses where you can learn everything. There's the offer, right? All this fun stuff comes through. So that's the Academy product. Now we have a funnel map, which you should as well. If you've been, certainly if you're a member of the Measurement Marketing Academy, you should have this already built for yourself, hopefully. But you can build this stuff out relatively easy, these little steps. I'm going to go through just a couple of bits here and show you the entire funnel that we currently have during the month. In this case, this is February to date. So you can see the number of times people have come to the page, of those the cart, of those the thank you page. We conditionally format this so we can see like we're hitting where we want to be conversion wise. However, not quite in the how steps. As the results we're getting are okay, but there's some performance issues here. I know that the offer page is not sending enough people to the cart page. We want it to be between 8 and 12%. It's only right around 5 or 6% during this month, right? So we have some issues here. I know I need some steps here. This is red because even though this is our goal is 20 to 40% and really between 30 and 40%. It's a little high. It's not much higher. So this probably could be a yellow. But so I'm okay with that. But if it falls a little bit, I'm okay with that as long as this goes up. Right? If this goes up and it falls just a little bit, we will still net more sales, which of course will improve our results. So now my mission becomes, how do I fix the offer page, right? Because the offer page is low. Now, we have 2 different versions of the Academy. We have, or variations, I should say. We've got the monthly Academy. People can get access to everything per month or per year. Obviously, a year is a better deal, but we've got 2 different breaks. So we can see, okay, people that go to the cart page here, right? Offer to the cart through the monthly cart, quite a little more than what the annual cart is. And of course, more likely to purchase on the monthly, at least currently during this date range. Sometimes this fluctuates a little bit, but we get this break point, but I'm still seeing that there's this really too low number, right? It's low, way too low, and it doesn't make sense for us. So we need to figure it out. We need to figure out how come I'm not sending 8 to 12% of the people like we should be to the cart. That is why we created the report I'm about to show you, because this is the customer journey. We talk about measuring the customer journey. You're talking about offer page, cart page, thank you page, probably the journey you're familiar with, some sort of steps that you're measuring for. And when you think customer journey, when I think customer journey, that's what we think about, the different stages and steps. And this is not that hard to set up once you know a couple of customizations with analytics and Tag Manager and, of course, Data Studio. And it's useful. However, if I need to go back to my marketing team and say, listen, we've got a problem. I need to optimize this number. I need to improve this number. How do we go about doing that? That's what this report is for. Now, this is something we call eyes on the journey. I'm going to explain it to you briefly, and we're not going to go into, this is a strategy session. So this is for those of you who are maybe not the implementers, but you are the possibility people. You need to know that this thing exists and how to use it so you can work with your teams to actually build it out. And of course, if you are somebody who is the implementer, you can of course build it out on your own. But I want to show you the strategy behind it because it works really, really well. Now I'm going to scroll down just a little bit here. And we'll bring the eyes on the journey into focus. So here's the question we were trying to answer. We had scroll, right? And maybe you've seen this with tools like Hotjar, Microsoft Clarity, whatever else. They sort of show you scroll rate and how people are interacting with stuff. And then that's cool. And we did the same thing with analytics, right? We could say, 51% of the people were hitting the bottom of the page. And we saw numbers like that. But what we were missing here was the story. Scroll doesn't give you a story. I could literally just come down here, go down, and then come back up, and I can trigger all the scroll. But is that really any sort of engagement behavior? Not really. If anything, it's the opposite. So we wanted to create a report that would show us that. That's what the eyes in the journey is all about. Now, the eyes, as you might imagine, all start with I. These words start with I. So there's the impression, then the introduction to the product, in this case, the Measurement Marketing Academy. Are they interested in the messaging we have? Did they investigate the actual offer itself? And then finally, did they initiate to go to the cart? Because that's the whole point, to send them over to the cart so they can then become a Measurement Marketing Academy member. So this is the eyes: impression, introduced, interested, investigated, and initiated. Now, we define them. This is all based upon your skill set when it comes to Tag Manager. It's why tools like Tag Manager are amazing. So we just defined the impression as soon as that page comes into view. So as soon as this page loads, bam, there's the impression. Then we said, well, if they're on the page for at least 10 seconds, consider that introduced because they stuck around. They're probably aware of what they are, where they're at, because we don't want somebody who came to the page, goes, oops, nope, this is the wrong click. I meant to click on something else, and they leave. That's the equivalent of chasing somebody, down that walks into your store and they were in the wrong building. Like, you don't want to chase them down. They don't have anything to do with you. We don't want that either. You have to stick around at least 10 seconds to be considered introduced. Then we have interested. Now, how do we measure interested? Interested is measured. We set this up. Now, you don't have to do this. I just want to show you how we're doing it. We measured it by saying, okay, they have to get it to at least this point, which is really, okay, you're kind of in the guts of some of the products and services or some of the features, I should say, of the Measurement Marketing Academy. And you've been here for at least 45 seconds, which is a really long time in the internet world. So if they've been there at least 45 seconds and they've scrolled to this halfway point, at that point, we're going, okay, they are interested in at least what we have to say. Now, this is the fun one. Investigated. This views the offer itself for 5 seconds. So what we did is we said, okay, if somebody comes here and goes, okay, let's just go around. Well, that's not really investigating the offer. But if they do this, 1,001, 2, 3, 4, 5, at that point, they have now officially investigated the offer. And that lets us know that they're probably considering it. They're looking at it. Now, again, we don't know if they're interested enough to buy and take action, but they are investigating. And then there's finally that initiated. Well, that's the obvious one. The simplest one here is to click to the cart. So if they come through here and they're investigating, then they click on either one of these buttons, that will fire initiated. So it's a very different way for us to measure still a customer journey. But this time, it's not a customer journey through multiple pages and steps. It's a customer journey. It's a conversation on the page itself. What's the journey through the page? Just that one page. So if I see that I don't have enough people sticking around less than 10 seconds, or if a lot of people are bouncing and leaving within 10 seconds, well, I know they've got a problem with this copy or with the way they were handed over to the page, or maybe the design or something like that. If they're not showing that they're even getting to the 45 seconds and at least a halfway point, well, then I know that probably something in this part of it needs to be adjusted because we're kind of losing that, that connection. They're not really showing interest. if they don't stay on here for at least 5 seconds, which is, the idea is that, okay, well, at least 5 seconds to kind of go through here and make a decision as to which direction you want to go. Well, then they really haven't considered. And if they're not really considering, then it's probably this copy up here where we're restating the offer and, trying to get them to actually think about purchasing, right? We need to build more value up in this copy. And if they are looking at the offer and they're considering everything, but they're not clicking to cart here, if they're not initiating, well, in that case, maybe we have to look at the restating the value of the offer because they're deciding not to move forward. Or it just might be a bad offer. Now, this particular one we've had out for a while and various levels of success with it, which have been good. So we know it's a good offer. It's just a matter of we've been playing around with the page to make it better, right? To optimize, because that's what we want to do. So this Eyes on the Journey report, now that we've sort of explored impression, introduced, interested, investigated, and initiated, what the behaviors are, the journey that the user, that the customer or potential customer is having with that page, this is how it looks. We measure it. So we have the number of impressions during this date range was, 560 some odd impressions, page loads. That's all this is. Super simple. Of those, 90% stuck around more than 10 seconds. That's about average, right? We actually expect anywhere between 88 and 93 is our goal. This is our forecast. Remember, we talked about forecasting with the 5 pillars. Always it's planning, building, reporting, forecasting, and then optimizing. So we have our forecast, our expectation of how this step should perform. So I don't see a problem here. This is not the issue. Then interested. Now look at this. We expect 55 to 65% to be interested, but we're only hitting 46% during this particular date range. That's an issue. So what we know is that people are sticking around at least 10 seconds, but we're losing them in the interest. Remember, what's interest? In our example, for our customization, it's 45 seconds with 50% scroll. So we know that they're sticking around a little bit, but they're not sticking around long enough, either because they leave within 45 seconds or they just don't scroll to that 50% mark. Either way, there's an interest problem here. So we know that the copy kind of toward the top middle part is, or maybe the design or something like that is the issue. There's some distraction elements there that might be interfering. From there, we have investigated. Now, investigated is not too far off. We really try to keep it between 30 and 40%. We're at 28% right now during this date range. That's not horrible. It's not great, but that's not my low-hanging fruit. My low-hanging fruit is interested. That's the one I want to pick up because I can tell immediately it is not where I want to be. 55 to 65 is where I'm currently. That's where I want to be. I'm at 46 right now. I have some improvement, and I can work with our copy team to sort of go into that now. They can go into the middle part, let's say top middle part of our page, and they could come in and say, okay, what's causing somebody to maybe get down to this point or just kind of do one of these, but they're just leaving, right? What's causing that sort of distraction? That might be. And they can go in with that mindset of, okay, we're losing the conversation here. We're keeping them from being interested. What can we do? How can we adjust things? Maybe it's design, maybe it's copy, combination of both. But either way, they'll make adjustments, and then we will expect that this little green part here widens out a little bit so that more people are becoming interested, which will lead more people, ideally, to become investigating the offer. Finally, there's the initiateds. Now you can see here the initiated. We have people investigating the offer, but the initiates are a little low. We expect between 8 and 12% to actually initiate. We're only getting at 4% right now. So we can see that, but now I can see how I'm getting at that 4% is I'm not getting enough people interested. If I had enough people interested and I built the value a little bit better, if our marketing team, focuses on that and builds the value here better, maybe a better job of telling a story or showing examples or whatever the thing is that they can come up with that will do that, that should, the hypothesis would be, that should get more people to be interested, which would sort of hit that next domino and keep people more people would become investigating the offer. And then finally, initiating, right? Assuming all those values are built, and we would see these numbers. Again, we've seen these before. We just like constantly tinkering with our pages to try to get it. We can see this report is telling us, you know what, kind of went the wrong direction here. So, I wanted to show you this report in this strategy session so you knew what was possible, because a lot of people don't even think to measure for this. But then I wanted to, what we do in the real world, and I'm not going to have time to show you the ins and outs, but this shows kind of all traffic all the time. So what we would do is we would say, okay, well, let's go look at our email traffic only or the Google traffic, because we might find that Google organic traffic is perfectly fine. That's not the issue. It's the email traffic that's being sent to the page. And so if that was the case, then we would know it's the email handoff that might be the problem too. Maybe the emails are reacting a little differently. So we break it down by traffic source. This is what our marketing team does. It's not something that takes you hours and hours, but within about a 15-minute conversation, you can have a really good understanding of what's working, what's not, and why. So you can go back and optimize it. Now I'm going to show you another version. We created this little comparison tool here as well. What this one will do is this compares different time periods on the Eyes on the Journey report, so we can see how we are improving or not improving as we go. So you can see here in January, we were doing all right. We had the impressions up, our introduced was up, we had interest right where we wanted it to be, investigated right where we wanted it to be. It was the initiates that were off, right? So initiates, we had 5% of the total coming through. So we really need to focus a little bit more on maybe restating the value right around that investigated stage to build that so that we could get more initiates. Now they did make some adjustments, but remember, what did it work or not and why, right? We made some adjustments on the page and the answer is no, it didn't, because our initiateds during this is the first half of February. This is the second half. So the first half of February, right? So this is what January looked like. We were trying to fix this. When we made some changes on the page, we messed this up. So yeah, we didn't hit the initiateds we wanted to hit, but this is why our interests were off, right? So it's like, okay, maybe we've got to really tweak that and play around with that. So what happened is we, and I'll show you just kind of a real quick idea of what we did. We took all of this. The idea was, oh, let's build value. Let's show them all the courses that are in there. And this isn't really all of them, but this was the headline courses. So we said, look at all this stuff that's there. And we put this up in the middle. So that was okay. But the problem was initiateds dropped, went really low. So the hypothesis was, okay, here's what's happening. We have all of this stuff, all these different courses that are in there, right? This is not everything in the academy. This is just the courses part of things. So we had this up there, but because we put it too high in the copy, it was a little bit of overwhelm. And maybe people were going, this is just too much. Maybe I'll come back and think about it later. And that's what caused the initiates to go low. So what we did is we moved it. We actually put it below. You can see there's the offer. We pushed all of that below. It's now the first question here. Right? Can you give me examples of what courses are inside the academy? And right now it's default to open. I think this is going to be our first thing to change. We're going to default this to closed. But right now it's default to open. So it's there, but it's only really there, right? There's our initiates. So we were investigating here right after 5 seconds. And then the goal was, well, if they were like, well, I'm not really sure, right? We need to give them additional reasons. So okay, there's their guarantee. Oh, here's all the stuff it has. You know what? Okay, fine. Let's go back. The hypothesis would be when they see everything in there, we're restating all that value, that initiates would go up. And look what happened. Our initiates did. We had 3% down here. I know it's a little hard to read with the yellow and orange here, or yellow and white here, but 3% is what this was the first half of February. We made that change. We literally just moved a section from one part of the site to another. Now that did not affect our interest. So we still have some work to do with interest, but look what happened with initiated. Initiated is almost double during this date range, right? So this is something we look at and say, okay, we're having an impact. What I think we're going to do is exactly what I told you earlier. We're going to just default this here so it's not such a distraction because there's so much. If you think about it, there's a lot of stuff back here and it's a very graphically heavy thing that draws the eye. And there's no real call to action from here. So you get down to the bottom, you're like, wait, where was I again? You got to go find the offer. So we could be losing some stuff with that. So instead, what we're going to do is we're just going to default this to closed. So it can be in there just like that. And we'll see, do we keep our investigated? Meanwhile, so we keep the investigated up, hopefully a little higher than that 6%, get it back into between the 8 and 12%. And then we'll look back here and maybe go into this area. And how can we get them to be a little more value oriented? Maybe a little recap statement here. So we realize, okay, people just reading this and they go, yeah, whatever. So maybe we do a little subhead here and then maybe another one down here that restate benefits that are coming through. So we might have something like that as well. So there's some really cool things that we can do that we know to specifically focus on based on this Eyes on the Journey report. And remember, this is measuring one page. It is measuring the conversation that the user is having with this page, not the cart page. We have an entirely different Eyes on the Journey for the cart page, which has helped dramatically for the cart rate. Our cart through rate used to be at 25%. Now it's typically in the mid 40s right now. So it's been really good. And it's because of the Eyes on the Journey reports, because we measured for the conversation. Did they stay more than 10 seconds? Because that's one problem to solve, if that's why it's not converting. Did they show interest? Because that's one problem, if that's why they didn't convert. Did they even look at the offer for enough time to effectively consider moving forward with the offer? Because if they're not doing that, that's a different problem to solve. Or did they could do all of that, but they just didn't initiate? Because that is yet a different problem to solve. And that's the beauty of this Eyes on the Journeys reports, is they show you the conversation that's happening very graphically. You can see it here with a little skinny, and certainly with the numbers there to help reinforce that. We've had some times when we first started this report where there was impressions. Our introduced was in the 70s, it was horrible. It was really skinny up here. And then it was a pipe where it was just nobody was interested, nobody was investigating, nobody initiated. It was just this pipe going down. But we understood the conversation that the users were having with the page. And because we understood it and we knew the result we were getting, not a result we wanted, but the result we were getting from the marketplace, we could go back to the page and make adjustments. And that's what's been widening this thing out ever since. So I wanted to introduce you to the concept. And of course, those with some Data Studio skills, this is all you need to do to set this up. You can use, and you can work with your teams. You'd say Tag Manager to measure these behaviors. You can even do it by time. It's the simplest way to do it by time with Tag Manager. Maybe 1 second on the page, 10 seconds on the page, 30 seconds on the page. You can do stuff like that to get started. But the moral of this is work with your teams to show them this and say, we need this for our key pages. Maybe a blog post even. You can do this with content marketing. You can do this with e-commerce sites on product detail pages. You can measure for all sorts of different behaviors. And then you can build your own Eyes on the Journey report that helps you to understand how your own users are interacting, the conversation that they are having with your page. And then from there, of course, you can make adjustments to improve the conversation. Now, we, of course, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit to show you some of those stuff. We've broken it down by device category so we can see if a certain category might have gone down. We, of course, I talked about earlier, we do it by traffic source so we can see all of that. I can tell by the type of traffic coming through if I wanted to just sort by that. So, there is some interactivity with this report that really helps you to focus in on the specific traffic source. Because again, remember, it might not be the entire page that needs to be changed. It might be that a specific traffic source wasn't properly handing them off. It wasn't preparing what we call the expectation engine. It wasn't preparing the expectation properly. So here's where we would find that out. We would just click on these and it would change the Eyes on the Journey reports for everything. I'm going to try to do my best here. This might take a second, but just to show you, if I go to, let's just do Infusionsoft email traffic. So if we just look at our email traffic, now remember, not every single bit of email was meant for the user to actually go to this page. So this is all of our Infusionsoft traffic. However, this is something that Google Analytics is saying, well, they were Infusionsoft people and they saw these pages. So we can see here, it starts to come back. Let's just see how it loads. We're going to give it a second. So there we go. So now 4% initiated from Infusionsoft. Here it was 2% initiated from Infusionsoft. Down here, 4%. So we still doubled. So the patterns are all in there. But we can see Infusionsoft people in February and mostly in February, that's where the interest dropped off. They were interested in January, but whatever the messaging is that we started doing in February isn't really getting them. Plus, introduced, look at that. Back down in the 80s. Remember I said it could be really skinny? This is a problem. Now, we fixed some things. This is the first half of February. This is the second half. We fixed some things. We brought back introduced, but we didn't fix the interested yet. We certainly didn't fix the investigated, but we did help with initiated. So it's like some of that stuff. It's like, okay, right? Did we accidentally send an email with an improper expectation? Probably. That's kind of what causes, some things like this to come through. But we can know what's happening and look for the patterns, look for the trends, learn about our audience, spend 15 to 20 minutes with this report, get all sorts of actionable insights that we can then go take action on and build and optimize our own results. I wanted you to see that. You can see just here how very different these look, in terms of the shapes and sizes. And they can really give you some amazing insights. So I wanted to introduce you to the Eyes on the Journey report and how you can optimize it. Now, what was your one thing? Hopefully it was just that you even could do that. Maybe you've always thought about the customer journey as separate steps or stages. But remember, there is still a customer journey happening on every single page. Every single page has a journey. So measure for that, right? What we call the Eyes of the Journey. Do the impressions. How many people, had that initial impression? How many were introduced? How many showed some sort of interest behavior? How many investigated the offer that you're making on that page? How many then initiated to go to the next step? It will dramatically improve what actions you take to improve your results. Now, if you like this workshop and you want more workshops like this, if you are not yet subscribed, please do that. Take a moment now, just go ahead and hit subscribe. We have a whole bunch every week now that are subscribing, which is awesome. So now that we've made all of these public for everybody, please subscribe. Take advantage of it. Every Wednesday, we will send you out the notification that it's going live and you can watch everything. Happy to help with any comments you have too as well. Give us a little bit of time sometimes with those comments, but happy to help where we can. So please take advantage of doing that. And of course, it's not the only way that you can get these workshops. If you are not yet a member of the Measurement Marketing Toolbox, that is our free membership, you do get this workshop. There's always the most recent Workshop Wednesday back there. I'd still subscribe to the YouTube channel so you see the past ones. But you do get the current Workshop Wednesday back there, and you get all these tools. So completely free. Traffic Tracking Toolkit, Google Analytics Report Card, GTM Cookbook. What's your traffic story? There's so many tools. This is just 8. There's 40 some odd tools back there. I know it's a lot, but you don't have to use them all today. Just know that they are there for you. It's our way of giving back. It's a ton of resources. So please take advantage of that. And the way to get there, just go to measure.tips/WW, and that will get you to where you want to go to set up your Toolbox membership. Now, that said, if you are interested in the Academy, hey, if you want to help us with the Eyes on the Journey report, show some interest, investigate those offers. Just go to measure.tips/getacademy. A whole bunch of win courses that are back there. You already saw some of those. We've got 200, some maybe even 300 now on-demand workshops. This is not a place where you go and you watch every video because you're just not going to have the time to do that. But it is just-in-time learning. So get back there. Plus, it comes with instructor support. So there are instructors that can help you. You send videos over to the instructors send videos back to you. It's entirely customized and quite literally like having a consultant on call, so you can get some answers within hours as opposed to days. So take advantage of that. Measure.tips/getacademy to become a Measurement Marketing Academy member. Maybe even build your own Eyes on the Journey report. With that, we'll bring this strategy session to a close. This has been Strategy Session, measuring the customer journey with the Eyes on the Journey report. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.